All right. So we are going to move from that to 9.4. I've lost my place here. Hold on just a minute. I don't have enough fingers to hold them in all the places in the notebook that I was trying to look at once. Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the second reading of policy GDF and administrative rule GDFR, support staff hiring?
Madam Chair, I move that the board approve the second reading of policy GDF, support staff hiring, and GDFR, administrative rule as presented by administration.
Thank you, Dr. Guyton. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Mr. Anderson. All right, Mr. Stacy, if you want to.
So, policy GDF goes to support staff hiring and, support staff hiring. And the question that was brought before us before was, does the board want to give its authority to the superintendent to make support staff hiring decisions? And so I talked to Alan Smith to get our attorney's position on this. And this is what he says. It's common for school boards to delegate this authority to their superintendent. Initially, there are significant differences between certified and professional staff and classified support staff. For example, professional certified employees are highly regulated through state law and regulations, while support staff are not. Legally, the district has much more discretion in the employment, discipline, and dismissal of support staff. Support staff are at-will employees. Professional employees typically have a one-year contract, while support staff do not. There can be more frequent turnover with support staff. A classified employee is more likely to leave with short notice, and the district may need to act quickly to fill that position rather than waiting until the next board meeting. Moreover, certified employees have detailed statutory due process rights, but those legal requirements do not apply to classified personnel. For instance, state law establishes detailed procedures regarding the evaluation, discipline, and termination of certified employees, but does not do so for classified employees or support staff. Allowing the superintendent the authority to hire, discipline, and dismiss support staff gives the district the greatest flexibility to address the staffing needs. And so one example with regards to support staff hiring, so we may advertise a position like executive secretary for a school. We'll get 100+ applicants for that position. So a school might go through that process, narrow that down, the applicants down to the ones that they're going to interview. They interview, they make a selection, and it may turn out that through that process, and this is just an example, someone within their school is promoted into that executive secretary position. Now that opens up that next position. And so in order for them not to have to always go back through the process, they may choose to, but they could pull from that pool of people that they interviewed for that executive secretary position and put them in that lesser position. And I promise you, our principals ask that over and over and over again, because probably you can spend a tremendous, as much as support staff flip over, you can spend a lot of time working through that process. And so that would be one situation where they would want some flexibility with regards to that.
And they can't do that now? Is that what you're saying?
They can do that now.
Oh, they can.
But the position was, I think that the conversation last month was around, do we want to give the superintendent that authority, or do we want the school board to approve? Like when I bring our recommendations to executive session, y'all act on the certified recommendations, the administrative recommendations. I give you the support staff their support staff for your information. So we make that decision at the district level about hiring the support staff. It doesn't come to the board. And so the same thing happens on the other end with dismissal. A certified person has certain due process rights that could take them all the way to the point that they could challenge a dismissal all the way, and the board would be able to hear that. Support staff don't have those same rights. And if you think about the state of South Carolina is an at-will state. And so in general, people have, their positions are at will. The law with regards to certification with teachers, there's statute that gives them more due process rights.
So your recommendation is not to change current policy? Is that-
My recommendation is to leave that flexibility with the superintendent, as is the recommendation of the School Boards Association, as is our attorneys. And I do note, I will say this, Alan Smith did tell me that there is an attorney somewhere in South Carolina that goes around and talks about, he believes the statute doesn't allow this to happen. And so, but our attorneys have not interpreted it that way. They think y'all have the right, the authority to delegate that responsibility. I hope I presented all sides.
I have a little bit of discussion about that. So back in December, Lexington Richland 5 had new board member training, and their attorney there said, and this is verbatim, some districts allow the superintendent the discretion to hire support personnel, and that's fine for boards to do that via policy. But ultimately, there's a state law that says no employee, and it doesn't confine itself to teachers, that no employee shall be employed in the district except by vote of the board. So in districts where they have given the superintendent the authority to hire support personnel, the board then ratifies that employment at a subsequent meeting. And here I have the law, it's 59-1980. And I'll just read the part because it talks about purchases as well, but it basically says no teacher or other employee shall be employed unless the memoranda of the terms of any such contract of employment shall be duly recorded in the minutes of such meeting and approved by the board. So it's in black and white in state law, and it's part of new board member training in a neighboring district. And the same state law that I just quoted, 59-1980, if you look back in that policy that we just talked about, GCF, it's actually quoted and referenced in that policy. So if the state law is saying no teacher or other employee and we're using it for one policy, well, then it should apply to other policies where we're talking about other employees.
So, Ms. Garris, did that say by contract or something? Because support staff we don't issue them contracts. And that could be the difference, I don't know. So like administrators get contracts. And we have some administrators that are not certified, but they're on an administrative pay scale, but they do get a contract. Support staff don't get contracts.
Right.
Would
but
that
it
be the
said-
difference?
No, the difference is that I just think you got some bad legal advice. It just says no teacher or other employee shall be employed unless approved by the board. And like I said, just in
But I think
December.
you did, there was a line
Yeah,
about
there
the
was,
contract.
it says,
because
well, I can read the whole thing, so we've got it all. So no teacher or other employee shall be employed or any purchase made except in a duly called meeting of the board, of which meeting each member has been notified in writing by the clerk of the board at least 3 days in advance thereof, unless a written waiver of such notice of meeting is signed by each member of the board, and unless such action or the memoranda of the terms of any such contract of employment or purchase shall be duly recorded in the minutes of such meeting and approved by the board. No contract shall be entered into with teachers who are under a teaching contract in South Carolina before April 15th of each year. In lieu of making a particular purchase, the board may request the purchasing and property division of the Department of Administration to make such purchase. So I guess here you've got to decide, do you like our attorney's advice, or do you like the attorney in the neighboring district who said that's fine for boards to hire via policy? But there's a state law that says no employee, and it doesn't confine itself to teachers, that no employee shall be employed in the district except by vote of the board. And that's how I read that state law as well.
All right. Board, are there any other questions for Mr. Stacy? Any other conversation?
I guess the question would be, we have what, 81 school districts in the state?
Yes.
How many, and I'm sure you do not know this, okay? But question,
I appreciate you
you
saying
can
that.
throw a number out if you want, but the question would be, you know, if Lexington 5 interprets it one way, Lexington 1 interprets another, all right, that's 2. How do the other 79 fall on the issue? Because you know, obviously state law can be ambiguous at times and can be open to interpretation.
Alan
What
Smith-
advice have we had from the South Carolina School Boards Association?
Well, the model policy, I think, now I need to look back at this.
I'm just gonna say, I don't put a lot of faith in the School Boards Association. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
and again, it's not for, you know, that's the end all be all, because obviously we make changes to the model policies that are presented.
I mean, they were telling school districts not to fill FOIA requests in the onset of COVID. I mean, they eventually rescinded that. But I just wouldn't go to them for advice.
And we don't know, I mean, in answer to your question, Dr. Guy, I think that would take some research to find out how many other boards.
So on GDF, policy GDF that I just presented to you, in black, it says the superintendent employs all support staff. That is the school board model policy. So what's in black here is what's reflective of the school board model policy. What's in red is what we are adding to that policy. So the superintendent employs all support staff. That's what the School Board Association is recommending.
So that's based off their
That's
interpretation of
based
state
off their
canon.
interpretation of the law. And when I talked to Alan Smith, again, he said his firm interprets it this way. I don't know how many firms how many districts they represent across the state. But I mean, I'm thinking it's considerable, the number that would allow the superintendent to make those decisions.
Well, I mean, I just
And I'm
like to
not
say-
really sure that I can even find that out.
Yeah, and I mean, just because the school district is doing it, doesn't mean they're doing it right.
I don't disagree with you, Ms. Garris. I'm just trying to, present it.
Madam Chair, in light of all of this, as with the other 2 policies that we were discussing earlier, I'd like to make a motion that we table this one as well until next month and give us all time to do our due diligence.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. I have a motion to table policy GDF and GDFR. Is there a second?
I second.
Second. Thank you, Ms. Garris. All
So-
in favor of
Well, just, is there any operational urgency to approving this, Mr. Stacy?
No, sir, we're just going to continue as we've gone, and this will be a change. I mean, right now, we allow the superintendent to make those decisions.
All right, all in favor of tabling policy GDF and administrative rule GDFR, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries.